So there are a couple other functions that may be of use to you. One is the RGB function, and the RGB function takes arguments for red, green, and blue, and what it returns, so these are numbers between 0 and 1 for red, green, and blue, and it will return a hexadecimal string that can be passed to functions like image or plot. And so if you want to convert between the a kind of decimal red, green, blue representation to this hexadecimal string, you can use the RGB function for that. Another thing that you can use RGB for is to add transparency to your colors. And so there's a fourth argument to RGB, which is a number between 0 and 1, the alpha parameter, which can be used to specify transparency in your colors. 0 being the most transparent, or basically completely transparent, and 1 being not transparent at all. Lastly, I'll just mention the color space package, which can be used to have exert a different type of control over colors. You may want to explore it, but I won't talk about it here. So just a quick example of the transparency in R. So here's a plot of about 1,000 points, and you can see that in the high density region here, I'm using the PCH19, which is a solid circle. In the high density region, all of the points just kind of overlap each other. So you just see a black blob there in the middle, and it's kind of hard to see what the resolution is for the different points because there's no definition of points there because they're all overlapping. So if I add a little transparency to the plot, you'll see that the circles become transparent. So when they overlap each other, you can kind of see through them, and so that the areas where there are lots of points overlapping, they get darker, and where there are areas where there are no points overlapping, you just see kind of a transparent circle. So here I've got the code that I've used to create this plot. And you can see that I've specified an alpha parameter of 0.2, and the red, green, and blue are all 0, so I can get black. And so 0.2 is pretty close to 0. There's a lot of transparency, but you can see that when I use the transparency like this, it's kind of a cheap and easy way to get essentially a histogram estimator, because the darker areas will represent higher density areas of the plot, and the lighter areas will represent kind of lower density areas. So you can see a little bit more information when you have a plot with a lot of different points in it when you use a little bit of transparency. So that's the basic intro into the use of colors and transparency into R. I think that the careful use of colors in plots and maps and whatever can make it easier for the reader to get the point that you're trying to make, or to see the comparisons that you're trying to make, and I think it's useful to have a good set of colors, especially to match kind of sequential colors with sequential data and diverging colors with diverging data. The R Color Brewer package is a very useful package that's available on CRAN, and it provides these color palettes for the different types of data that you might be plotting. The color ramp and color ramp palette functions are essential when you're trying to interpolate between colors, especially if you're using the R Color Brewer package and you want to interpolate between the colors on a given palette. And then finally, transparency is very useful because it can be used to clarify plots that have many points on them by allowing the colors to be transparent and to kind of overlap each other.